What do you say, everybody? And welcome to Bama Insider and the Bama Insider YouTube channel with Kyle Henderson. I'm Mick Gillispie, and we're going to take your calls. We're going to hang out, and it's Sunday night. Kyle, great to see you. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell as you hang out. I got something special here. Look at that. I'm the guy that threw the golf ball. Alabama and Tennessee this Saturday, 6 o'clock. Look, it's the third Saturday in October. I think this is a big rivalry game. I love it. It's probably my favorite rival that Alabama plays every year. We got so much to talk about. Alabama rebounded after a tough loss to Texas A&M, and they dominated. And Nick Saban was kind of happy after the game. And Tennessee played a game that we'll be talking about forever. I don't think we'll ever forget what happened at Neyland Stadium last night. It was as wild as I've ever seen. It kind of reminded me of wrestling, watching a wrestling match from back in the 90s. Like people started throwing stuff onto the field. Lane Kiffin got hit with this golf ball right here. Whoever threw that golf ball must have had like amazing accuracy. I mean, to be able to nail him with it. But I don't know, Kyle. I mean, like, it's just like there's so much to talk about. Like and subscribe and hit the bell. Roll Tide, everybody. All right, let me get your thoughts on that game. I know you had to stay up. As soon as we got off the air last night, I went in and watched it. I was in utter amazement watching the way that game ended.
Yeah, I mean, that game certainly had the drama that continues to circulate. Lane Kiffin in Tennessee, for that matter. I think from the mustard to the hole-in-one hitting Lane Kiffin, and then Kiffin walking off and throwing that Odell Beckham where he caught the water bottle. Did you see that? Everyone's talking about that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the drama creates the headlines, and the drama continues to circulate those programs. It's quite incredible, and to see kind of how long that first quarter or the last minute of that game lasted, it was like an eternity because the Tennessee player goes down and they're checking out him. And then the way that it ended was kind of anticlimactic because the Tennessee quarterback, he just ran out of bounds, right?
Yeah, Milton.
The game ended.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Hendon Hooker was taking them down the field and he was going to beat Ole Miss. I mean, he was in stride and he ran, got the first down and just messed up his foot. And from what I've heard, he's not playing this week against Alabama. And I heard that from a pretty reliable source. And then Milton came in, and I know it was only a couple of plays, but he had absolutely no sense of awareness and ran out of bounds. I felt so bad for the way that game ended. I mean, it would have helped Alabama for Tennessee to win. I mean, just to give Ole Miss a second conference loss, right? But, I mean, at the same time, and it would have made the game against Tennessee, I thought would have been just huge if Tennessee would have came back and won. And I was kind of pulling for them, but absolutely nuts. I know we're going to talk about that tonight. Obviously, there was a cryptic tweet from Hall. Kyle, it was there and then it was gone, and I don't know. What's the latest on that? I know people are asking.
Yeah, Tony had an article on kind of a Jai Hall and the tweet that he had, and he's basically said, calling it quits. I think I could pull it up here. I mean, basically, it's just, him showing frustration of not getting on the field. And I think we have the stats right here as well. Here are the stats from last night. We'll talk about the stats as well. But here is that tweet. And he said, calling it quits. And then he deleted it. So this is a Jai Hall, and everybody knows about him. He's the freshman wide receiver out of Florida, came to Alabama, had a fantastic spring game. And then he shows a lot of frustration during, after the game, where everybody's celebrating the team win 49-9 over Mississippi State. He's showing frustration. And there was, a lot of people that were criticizing Alabama for not playing a lot of these freshmen. And look, I think it's tough for these freshmen to come in and not play because they're the guys at every single high school. And then when they come to Alabama, you got, first round picks in front of you. And I think John Mechie said last night, you got to be patient and you got to wait. It's part of the process. And, that's got to be tough for a lot of these guys. And I think what's also made it tough is the transfer portal is so easy to jump into and go somewhere else and play automatically. But I think you have to be cognizant of that, because just because you enter the transfer portal doesn't mean automatic success somewhere else. Now, we've seen it work out for other players. Most recently, I can think of like Jerome Ford, someone at Cincinnati who had 4 touchdowns yesterday. But he's playing against Central Florida, whereas Alabama is playing in the SEC, and you're being coached by Nick Saban. So what does it all mean? Probably nothing, just more than frustration. These kids, what is Ajay Hall, like 18 years old? So I don't think there's too much to really look into it. A lot of these guys are probably frustrated. The best place to go is not social media when you're frustrated. The best place is to, talk to some senior leaders on the team, guys like Mechie, or, pull a coach aside and be like, I'm feeling this way. I think Ajay Hall is certainly going to get his opportunity down the road. We saw what he could do in the spring game. And I think Nick Saban said that you got to do what's right on the field and off the field. I don't know if I have no idea, but frustration happens to all of us. Going to social media is certainly not the place to talk about it.
Let me ask you this. I mean, you covered the team for a long time. I mean, you've been around the program and you've seen this season. Do you think that Hall might have a point? I mean, it's not like anyone's really been tearing it up from the wide receiver spot outside of Jamison Williams, right? I mean, he's been great, and everybody else has been okay. John Mechie, according to Coach Saban's been banged up. I thought this was his best game of the season. He had a really good first half and caught some big balls and had some, yards after catch. This was a much different game than last year because last year Alabama threw the deep ball to beat Mississippi State. Everything that Bryce Young throws seems to be in front of the play, but he does a really, really good job at it and lets the receivers and the backs and the tight ends make plays. But, I mean, my thought, Kyle, is that I'd like to see Ajay Hall. I'd like to see some of these other guys play because I haven't really been super impressed with a bunch of the other guys, but I might be wrong.
No, I think you bring up a great point. And one of the guys that I was glad to see get on the field last night, and I hope we see more of him, is Trayshawn Holden.
Yes.
My goodness. I mean, he added another element automatically. I'm like, why hasn't he been playing the entire season? Now, look, I think the best players should automatically get to play. We don't get to see what's happening at practice. We don't get to see what's happening inside the classroom or how these players are, understanding the playbook. But man, you get some of these other players some opportunities and maybe they could turn it up a little bit. I think Jamison Williams with his speed, I know John Mechie had a long run, but he's not as fast as some of these other wide receivers that we're seeing here play on Sunday. You got to look for some more firepower, and Trayshawn Holden certainly had it. Maybe Ajay Hall has it. Maybe Christian Leary, and I think you're right. Like, why aren't some of these other players getting some opportunities? I know we saw Trey Sanders kind of late in the game, but maybe some splashes of some additional players just to see if some of these players can, create some more value to get on the field. It's really interesting, but I'm not condoning what Ajay Hall is saying going to social media. Then again, I'm saying maybe he does deserve a shot because, man, just look what Trayshawn Holden did. I mean, last night, that was super impressive by him. Hope we get to see more of him on the field.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, like and subscribe as you hang out. Hit the thumbs up. That's a great way of saying Roll Tide as we talk to you like we do every Sunday night after Alabama plays. It was a 49-9 domination of Mike Leach and Mississippi State, a pretty decent Mississippi State team. I wouldn't say they're great, but they're dangerous. Alabama got through on the pass rush. The offensive line looked good. The running backs looked good. Kyle, let's just go ahead and grade what the performance and offense, defense, and special teams. And I'll start with the offense. Give me your grade and then assess what you thought about Bryce Young and his offense against Mississippi State.
Yeah, well, let me bring up the stats so we can have them for reference, and then we can kind of just point out the stats and talk about some grades. And if you guys want, we can throw up the Pro Football Focus grades as we usually do. But looking at the season statistics, the game statistics from the game against Mississippi State, I thought the offense played very well. I know I mentioned Roydell Williams, and he certainly looked like a bowling ball, and he led the team in rushing with 78 yards. Brian Robinson, I thought, ran hard, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. I thought it was hilarious kind of during Nick Saban's press conference where he's saying that, they called the timeout to, change the play. And I think a pass was called instead of a run. So I thought that was hilarious. I'm sure you've seen the press conference.
Yeah.
I thought the offense, they did their thing. I think someone brought up inside the comment box, I continue to see some of these offensive linemen have trouble picking up blocks or blitzes. Darian Dalcourt, Chris Owens. I know Chris Owens played a little bit better last night, but Darian Dalcourt, I thought, had some trouble. And you don't want Bryce Young to get hit, period. I mean, they're coming out. I think, would you agree, Mick? It's starting to see we're starting to see more blitz packages coming right at Bryce.
Yeah, look, one of our callers last night, it was either Kevin from Dallas or Robert from Mobile. One of those two guys, he said, look, I want to keep William Anderson and Bryce Young in bubble wrap. And basically what he was saying is, and I'm sorry that I can't remember which guy it was in our conversation, but we can't get them hurt, because if we do, we're in big trouble. And I agree with that. I mean, I thought that was a really good way of putting it. We lose either one of those guys, and it is going to be very, very tough for Alabama. And I'm still not overly impressed with the offensive line, although they were better yesterday. So what's your grade for them?
I would say probably, the backfield. I would probably give them, I'm talking about the running backs and maybe throwing, kind of looking at the running backs. I'd probably say an A for the running backs. I thought they did a good job. I think the offensive line, probably a B. I thought Bryce Young did a fantastic job. I think he's going to get an A from me. I mean, 20 of 28 for 348 yards with 4 touchdowns, maybe an A plus. I mean, he's just has this special ability to create plays. The wide receivers, I think I'm going to give them an A as well. I mean, talk about a really big bounce back performance, because we saw a lot of drops against Texas A&M. I've never seen that many drops from an Alabama receiving room. I mean, I don't think you'd probably say the same, right?
I do, but it hasn't been in a long. It's been before Nick Saban got there. I mean, you're going back to Mike Shula days.
Sure. I mean, look, Mechie caught a touchdown. Brian Robinson caught a touchdown. Trayshawn Holden, Jameson Williams. I mean, the entire group did a fantastic job. And as Nick Saban said during the press conference, last year, Alabama beat Mississippi State over the top. This year, Alabama beat Mississippi State with long runs. I mean, you look at the yak yardage from some of these guys. John Mechie, 50 yak yards. Brian Robinson, 76. Trayshawn Holden, 59. Jameson Williams, 63. Longest of 75 yards. So big breakaway plays for Alabama wide receiving unit. So overall, I thought the offense did a fantastic job last night. I think the offensive line still needs to improve. Maybe they're not going to improve, which is a scary thing, because, I mean, wouldn't you think that they've already made these adjustments going into week 8 of the college football season? There's going to be better teams that Alabama faces down the road, but maybe this is just as good as the offensive line gets.
Well, that's why I can't give the offense an A. I mean, even though they had a decent performance and a good performance, it still wasn't a great performance from the offensive line. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still guys running in the backfield. Bryce Young was getting hit from time to time. Every time you kind of feel like you're comfortable, they're better at run blocking than pass blocking. I'll put it like that. I mean, and Bryce makes up for it because he's able to move around in the pocket and and avoid contact. Evan Neal's amazing. Outside of him, it's really hit or miss, play to play. And I just want to see some of these guys, the Lathams and the Brockermeyers, just beast up in practice and Tua their way into the starting lineup and make this offensive line better. And it might not happen. I mean, these other guys have been around for a long time, but I'm watching Georgia play and I'm like, Chris Owens isn't blocking these guys. Ikier isn't blocking these guys. So sorry. I mean, they're going to bowl right through those dudes, and they're going to be in the backfield if that game does materialize before the end of the year. That's kind of how I feel. I mean, I think they're okay, but they're not great. I'd love to see the Pro Football Focus grades that they got for this week. But you know what? All in all, I mean, I still give the entire offense, them included, a B plus. I mean, Bryce Young was fantastic. The running backs, it was great to see Roydell Williams get in there and do some stuff. And he's got that burst that we were missing when Jace McClellan went out. I mean, he's just he's that guy. I think it's his turn now, right? Brian Robinson. I'm becoming a believer in Brian Robinson. He's not a breakaway guy, but he can control the game. He doesn't fumble. He brings that leadership. And I mean, I'm really liking him the more and more I see him. He's been such an important factor for Alabama on their offense, and he's been so consistent this season. We saw a little Trey Sanders, not much, but a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I still don't have a feel on Trey Sanders. I had a radio station ask me that. I'm like, look, I don't know. I mean, we just haven't seen the guy. Had the bad car accident last year, had the injury before that. So I'm curious, but Bryce Young, to me, let's keep him in bubble wrap. As long as he's there, Alabama is going to be all right. And then the receivers did a really, really good job this game, catching the ball and getting out there. So I give them a B+. All right, let's switch gears now and talk defense. We know about Henry To'o, his game, and Will Anderson Jr. I mean, he had a game that reminded us of Derek Thomas, DT, the greatest Alabama defender of all time, and didn't play for Nick Saban. He's the greatest. He's the GOAT, and Anderson kind of reminded me of him with those 4 sacks yesterday.
Yeah, I think when you look at the defense overall, collectively, I think they played, a really good game. I mean, you see that William Anderson had 4 sacks, but how about the team having 7 sacks? I mean,
yeah,
I was reading the BamaInsider message board, and someone was like, only on the Alabama message board could you win by 40 and still have a meltdown. I mean, there was people going to the message boards and they were like, fire all these coaches and these players are, this defense is completely trash. And I was like, okay, well, let's just kind of look at the statistics from this particular game. They had 7 sacks. What was it like? I can go up and look at the rushing yards. Here are the stats kind of on the right of your screen. Mississippi State, I know they're not a big team in terms of rushing, but they had negative 1 yard rushing the football. They didn't score a touchdown. And you kind of just look to how Alabama controlled the tempo of the game and came up with, what was it, 2 interceptions or 3 interceptions, right? 3 interceptions in the game.
Yeah.
So, Jordan Battle had 2 and Josh Jobe had 1. So 3 interceptions, 7 sacks, negative 2 yards rushing, and only hold Mississippi State to 9 points. I think that's a pretty good job by the defense. But if you go to BamaInsider on the message boards, we have a Fire Pete Golding thread 3.0. So people are still not satisfied, and that's just that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, look, we dealt with that last night on the postgame show. We talked about it. I just was curious. I mean, I don't know enough about coaching to disagree with Nick Saban. I can't. I just don't. I mean, like if he likes Pete Golding, my instinct is to like Pete Golding.
Hold on, breaking news. Trayvon Diggs has just recorded another interception, this time off Mac Jones, and he takes it for a touchdown. Pick 6 by Trayvon Diggs. Unbelievable. And just when the Cowboys had missed a field goal, so they were trailing Bill Belichick and the Patriots 21-20. Mac Jones throws a pass, gets tipped. Trayvon Diggs comes up with it, takes it for a pick 6.
Yeah, who would have thought that of all the guys that play defense from Alabama, that it's a receiver that is the best defender that Alabama has put out, right? I mean, I wonder what his thought was when he was going to try to follow his brother and be a great receiver. His brother played at Maryland, of course, and now is a star receiver on my fantasy football team and for the Buffalo Bills, right? And he's become, I mean, he's having the type of year in the NFL that Deion Sanders had. He's like Rod Woodson. I mean, Ed Reed type stuff for this guy. So another big play. I hate it for Mac, but I'll tell you what, Diggs has been great. Yeah, that's definitely worth, as we talk defense here, a timeout. So I mean, let's pivoting back to Pete Golding. Like I was saying, I just feel like if Nick Saban likes him, he must be able to recruit. Saban must feel comfortable with him. Could have gotten rid of him last year to Texas. Nick Saban fought to keep him. I don't know. I mean, my gut feeling would be that I kind of believe the fans. I mean, when it comes to, hey, would Pruitt be better? Would, someone else be better? But then when I say that, on top of it all, I mean, I just kind of go, put back to Nick Saban. If Nick Saban thinks the guy's good, then I'm comfortable with that. And I don't know enough to know what he does well and what he doesn't do well, other than I know he can recruit. I know Alabama looked absolutely unprepared for the first half at Texas A&M, but he did great against Ole Miss, and he had a really great showing this time around. So who knows, man? But I want to give the defense. Really, I'm going to give them an A yesterday. I mean, the pass rush was there. They were making all the tackles. They kept the plays in front of them. They had the picks. There weren't a lot of bad plays, and Mississippi State can chew you up with that, option style passing attack. They give a lot of teams trouble. Alabama shut them out last year, and Alabama was great yesterday. Kyle, I don't know, disagree with me, agree? What do you think?
No, I think you bring up a really good point about, Nick Saban, and it's really hard to kind of get to this point and feel that, Nick Saban still has Pete Golding on staff. I think that, he obviously trusts him. I've seen many times where he continues to defend Pete Golding. But with that said, I mean, where else would you go? I saw online, we already have a defensive coordinator hot board, and Pete Golding is still on staff. But there's like articles like these are the next 10 coaches to replace Pete Golding. So I think, and I wonder kind of from a PR standpoint, is it getting to the point where, Nick Saban almost has to release Pete Golding just because it's like, this is one of the bad things about Alabama, or at least one of the bad things to write about. Can you imagine if Alabama wins another national championship this year? And I know people right now probably won't feel that they're going to, but I think they very well could still. You win 2 championships and then you make a change at defensive coordinator. And I think a lot of people, they kind of point to, and I want to get your take on this too, Mick. They point to Georgia's defense and they're like, that's the staple. That's what we want. And I wonder if Alabama, and by the way, Mac Jones just threw a touchdown pass. So now
that fast?
Yeah. And he threw it over Trayvon Diggs. It was
a little payback.
So now the score is New England 27, Dallas 26 with 2 minutes left in 11 seconds. So that was crazy. But what I was saying about Georgia's defense, okay? So stay with me here. People want Georgia's defense. And I'm curious to see, and I'm not saying that this is 100% true, but I do feel this way. If Alabama was to have Georgia's defense, I think that they would then have to sacrifice the offense that they have, because Georgia doesn't have the offense that Alabama has. And I think that like something has to give. And I think Nick Saban, as much as he is a defensive coordinator, in his heart, I think he realized that in this new age of college football that he had to change and kind of morph into the offense that we see today, because at 3 yards in a cloud of dust, I think it can certainly win you 10, 11 games a year, but I don't think it's going to win you national titles. When's the last time Georgia's defense, which everybody loves, has won a national title? When's the last time Georgia's won a national title? It's been 1980.
Yeah,
and
1980.
I still think that Georgia's defense can take them as far as they need to go. But I think that their offense now, with that said, I thought Stetson Bennett did play well, and I thought he did throw the football better than he's thrown the football. But I still think that will be, kind of the end of their season will be the lack of their offensive productivity in terms of throwing the football over the top. Then again, George Pickens is coming back, but I'm just saying that I don't think that I don't think that a true elite defense really exists anymore. I think it's more of like an up-tempo offense, and that's what's going to win championships. Just my opinion.
Yeah. So grade for yesterday's game
for the defense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say an A. Geez, 7 sacks, 9 points, 3 interceptions. Man, that's a great defense. And you know what Nick Saban said after the game too? He's like, this is the first time that Nick Saban said this all season, that Alabama played a complete game. We haven't heard him say that yet. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I agree. And now we look ahead to Tennessee. Tennessee, this is a rivalry game, which I think Alabama's won 14 straight of these cigar games, right? The third Saturday in October. This Tennessee offense under Josh Heupel, I enjoy watching it. I mean, it's dangerous. When Hendon Hooker finally took over at quarterback for Joe Milton III, he was like able to hit some of those deep passes, and they throw the deep ball a lot. I mean, they'll throw the deep ball on 3rd and 1. I mean, that's the what they're looking for. And Milton, I was at the Pitt game. He kept overthrowing all the receivers, but that was before. I think in that game is when Hooker took over and started moving the offense. I think they would have won last night had Hooker not gotten hurt. We already kind of went through that, but now it sets up for, an injured Tennessee team against Alabama. Tennessee is going to get fined a lot. I mean, there was a delay from them throwing mustard bottles and this golf ball right here that hit Lane Kiffin on the leg. He had it in his pocket. Look at he sent it to me this morning, Kyle. So I have it right here. I mean, like water bottles, the Pfizers and all that stuff. I don't know how much of a distraction that's going to be. Alabama, I think, will be focused. So I think that Tennessee will probably get smoked coming up on Saturday. But, with that said, they're not going to have Hooker for this game. I don't know how bad he's hurt, but from what I understand, he's not going to play. And I got that from a really good source. So, Bob in the comment section was asking. So, look, this game is one that I look forward to every year. And I'm at a lot. I mean, I'm in Tuscaloosa for all the games. I don't go into every game. I might go watch this one like I do every year. So I'm kind of excited about it. And we'll be at Westgate Luxury Condominiums. Hopefully they'll let us smoke cigars on the roof. I don't know if they will, but it is outside, man.
There's you and Trey right there.
Yeah, that's me and Trey. If we win, I don't know, man. I'll tell you, man. It's just it's the start of an exciting week. What do you think is going to happen to Tennessee, though? I mean, they fine you for running out on the field when you win a big game. What do you get fined for fans just, refusing to stop throwing things?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea about that sort of stuff. I thought, anytime that, their own cheerleaders were under fire. I mean, they were holding like those cardboard signs, like as like safety from their own fans who clearly lost their mind throwing, golf balls. And the craziest thing is, did you see French's mustard like tweeted out? They were like, French's mustard, great on hot dogs, not good on the football.
Yeah,
it was like I love like these social media geniuses that come up with like the perfect time. Like someone said, like someone must have messaged like the social media team and we're like, hey, they just threw a French's mustard bottle. Come up with something creative. And then there's like some 18-year-old out there. They're like, quick, think of something. And he came up with that. I mean, it was like, and look, like, I mean, Tennessee, I think I was asking you this before the show. What's the trajectory of kind of their program over the last 3 years? Is it actually continuing going down? Is it like slightly up? Is it, I don't know. I mean,
well, let me kind of go back and just remind everybody, what kind of started that whole thing with Lane Kiffin. He was their coach in 2009. They fired Philip Fulmer and they brought Lane Kiffin in and they signed him to a 6-year contract. And he had a pretty decent year. He was recruiting well. I believe he had Ed Orgeron on his staff. His dad was on his staff, who was Marty Kiffin, a great defensive mind. Mm-hmm. And anyway, Tennessee had a lot of momentum going. And then, just all of a sudden he takes the USC job and leaves Tennessee high and dry. And then their program has gone straight downhill after that. I mean, like they lost all these recruits and then they brought in, I think, Derek Dooley after that. And I mean, they've been awful ever since. They haven't beaten Alabama really since Philip Fulmer. I mean, he's the last coach they've had that's beaten Alabama. And they've had a bunch of coaches in there. But Lane Kiffin got pretty close in 2009. I've got a picture of it in here, the Rocky block, where Cody blocked the ball at the end of the game in Tuscaloosa. Anyway, so Lane left and people were just losing their minds then. They were burning couches and almost rioting on campus. They were pretty upset with him. And then, this game comes down and I just a lot of frustration there, a lot of frustration directed at Lane Kiffin for leaving and all the losing that's followed and and their fans threw this exact golf ball right here and hit Lane Kiffin in the leg. I've never seen anything like that in a college game before. I loved my favorite part was they delay everything and then they made all the students go way high in the student section, and then as soon as the game started back up, they all ran back down to the bottom again to be in the action. I know a lot of people with the Tennessee program, and I can tell you that there's a lot of people that are really good at their job that aren't real happy about the way that things went. But I thought Lane Kiffin did a really good job in his post-game interview. Hey, these fans came to be entertained, and he was positive. He could have really kind of been negative, but he's a polarizing figure, like that's the thing I enjoy most about Lane Kiffin. He's entertaining, man. I mean, like wherever he shows up, you never know what's going to happen. But what a night in Knoxville. And then that just kind of sets us up. And I see you have the streak on there. Most of these games have been whoopings. I mean, old country butt whoopings. I mean, like there was the game in 2009, and there was the game with Josh Dobbs that they had. And what was that? That was the Derrick Henry game. I went to get a soda watching that game. I went to get a Diet Coke for my bourbon, to be honest with you, that I brought into the game illegally. If I really did that, I could be joking, who knows. And I missed the entire third quarter because the Brookwood High School band was running the concession stand, and they couldn't figure out how to get everybody their hot dogs and drinks. I mean, and Derrick Henry basically ran over them like a freight train for the entire third quarter. But it came down to the end. It was a really good game. Can you? I can't really see that, Kyle. I know. I'm sure people that are watching on TVs can. Oh yeah. Here we go. So we got. Yeah, look at those scores, man. Jeez, Pete.
Look at that. I mean, 2006. Where were you in 2006?
I was at the game. I was there. Look, I go to this game every single year.
I'm asking the people watching the show.
Oh yeah.
2006. Where was everybody in 2006?
Yeah, I was there.
I was in Washington D.C.
Dude, let me tell you about that one. That was a typical Mike Shula game. I was at Neyland Stadium. Alabama had the lead in the fourth quarter, couldn't put it away, gave it up to Tennessee and lost at the end, and then walked out of there 16-13 losers, And it was just kind of like that game in particular was really Mike Shula's tenure as Alabama's coach in a nutshell. Then the game in 2007 was probably the craziest one. Nick Saban was coach, and he had to suspend 4 guys before the game for selling their textbooks illegally, right? And Alabama onside kicked to start the game and got it, and it ended up killing them 41-17, and then lost to Louisiana Monroe. I want to say it was like the next week. So it was right not too long after that. And then 2008, I don't really remember that one. 2009, it was pretty much at all these games. 2009 was the Rocky Block. But I mean, every year it just seems like Alabama's ahead by so much. Tennessee really doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, I see in the comment box, Chris says that he was 3 years old in 2006. So I was just curious to see where everybody was. So yeah, those are the scores. Mick, I'll let you get to some calls. I know you are eager to take some calls. I put the call-in line on the screen for you. So if you guys want to call in, there's the call-in line number 205-850-0883. Thanks for having me on Sunday Night Live, and we'll see how this week goes.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, man, let's get to the phone lines, and we'll start right off the bat. And hey, guys, like and subscribe, hit the thumbs up. We'll get going with Jarek from Buffalo as we talk Alabama and whatever you want to get into tonight. What's up, Jarek?
What is going on? How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, man, I'm feeling good. I mean, I'm just laughing about the Tennessee Alabama games.
Yeah, man, it's those games, man. Let me tell you something, man. I remember the first time when I was 7 years old, what actually got me into Bama football was the one back in 2005, where it was just such a oh my goodness gracious, a low scoring game. Was an incredible football game, but that was all the way back in 2005. And my mom's friend, who's a Alabama alum, also a Delta, got me into Bama football that day. So yeah, I definitely keep this game always in mind.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, what's your thoughts on, kind of going into this thing? I mean, you still thinking about last week, or you kind of getting into to this matchup with Tennessee? How you feeling?
I definitely feel I feel pretty good. I mean, we got the W. We showed some improvement on the defensive side of the ball. I'm still on the, I'm still kind of wary on Pete Golding. I want to see improvement. we do got to consider the fact that he is a very young defensive coordinator. He still is developing. He still is learning, trying to get better. But I'm still worried on Pete. I would love to see this improve now going into Tennessee. I would love just to see it every week. Can this defense be consistent, right? We don't want this to be a one-time thing where, we're great on the defensive side of the ball one time, and then all of a sudden we go back to just oversimplifying the defense. We go back to making the defense complicated for our secondary. Our linebackers are not really communicating. We're not controlling our gaps on the defensive line. So hopefully we can try to continue the momentum, try to improve on areas where, we know it's a certain weakness, and have other playmakers besides Will Anderson on the defensive line that can get to the quarterback. So want to see some improvement in certain areas, but overall wise, I'm looking ahead. I'm looking forward to Tennessee.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. Yeah. Well, did you get a chance to catch any of that, the end of that Tennessee game?
Yeah, unfortunately I did. That was one of the most embarrassing things. It was a crazy ending. And I never expected Milton, to run out of bounds, as time expired. But that was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in my life. I've watched college football for a long time. I've never seen, fans throwing, garbage and, ketchup and mustard on the football field and water bottles, and they're hitting the marching band and the cheerleaders, and they even had to leave out the football field. And I've never seen the dancing squad with those little signs had to cover up their heads because of how much garbage was being thrown. That was embarrassing, in my opinion. And that's not all Tennessee fans, but the Tennessee fans there should be ashamed for what they did.
Yeah, well, they're going to get. I don't know what the punishment is going to be, but I'm sure there's going to be a fine involved. I mean, they'll have protocols in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. But I don't think it will happen again. I think it's a one-time thing. Like Lane Kiffin's back. He came through. We saw it. I mean, when Alabama came to town and Lane Kiffin was their offensive coordinator, they were worried that maybe something like this would happen, and nothing happened. It was just kind of another game. But this time it was different.
Yeah, again, it's a one-time. I do agree. I think it was a one-time thing there. I think, talking to some Tennessee fans that were at the game, they kept saying, "Hey, we felt cheated. We felt like the referees definitely played a factor into why they lost. The ball placement, especially when it was like a 4th and 24 situation, and it was I thought it was a first down, but." Tennessee fans definitely thought it was there, but some people thought that the placement was bad. So it was just overall wise a horrible, horrible day for Tennessee fans. They felt like they got screwed over, but still, just for those actions, man, I don't justify that, man. I definitely feel like that was just disgusting to watch.
Yeah, that's definitely what set him off. So you thought it was a first down on that play?
Yeah, I thought it was, but like I said, there wasn't any conclusive evidence. We didn't see the ball. We don't know where the ball was. So again, if you don't have the evidence, if you don't have any conclusive evidence that shows that he crossed over the plane, then it stands. So I felt like he did, but again, that was just from the angle that I saw. But from different angles, you couldn't see the ball at all.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, you hate when stuff like that happens, but it was great watching last night. I mean, it reminded me of when Steve Bartman and tried to catch that ball, and then it hit in the Cubs game in 2003. I mean, like, it just the place went nuts. They were angry. And I think you're right. I think that's the play that kind of set everyone off, that 4th down play. And the spot of the football, and just a lot of frustrations bubbled over, and they're playing the wrong team coming in, after the way that ended, taking on this Alabama football team that's focused right now. I mean, I think Nick Saban's got these guys right where he wants them.
Yeah, and also too, man, I hope their quarterback gets better. I know he had a nasty knee injury towards the end of the game before Milton comes. So hopefully hopefully he's all right. He doesn't really suffer a serious injury. But yeah, I agree with you. This is a much more improved, much more focused Alabama football team. Hopefully, again, Alabama can carry out that intensity that they showed last week. Again, the players looked motivated, the players looked excited. there were certain situations where Bama was up huge, where the bench was, where the sidelines, whenever the backups would make plays, the sidelines would get rowdy. I feel like that was the type of energy that we missed and some of the energy that we lacked. Now that we're starting to get that back a little bit. So I do agree. I also think it's a home game, right, Mick?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a home game for us. You already know the environment is going to be crazy. The cigars are going to be ready to go. And, Alabama's going to come out there. So, definitely, if you're a Tennessee fan, you didn't want that to happen. If Tennessee would have got that win, definitely would have felt like, the momentum, the momentum that these guys had, especially when you had 105,000. That was the most packed crowd I've ever seen since 2016 when they did play against us back when they had Alvin Kamara and Josh Dobbs. So you can tell that the Tennessee Vols fans are excited about that. But after that loss, I definitely feel like Bama has all the momentum going into next week, and I expect Bama to play some really, really good quality football.
Awesome, man. Anything else before we get to another call? Great to hear from you, by the way, Jarek.
Nothing really much, man. Again, watching this Cowboys game, watching two Alabama great players going back and forth. One of the craziest scenarios I've ever seen between two Bama players. Trayvon Diggs picks off Mac Jones for the touchdown, and all of a sudden the next play, Mac Jones goes at Trayvon Diggs again for a 75-yarder. Crazy game was going on right here. Watching Bama greats go at each other, but not that much going on.
Yeah, man. Well, roll tide. I love it.
Oh yeah, roll tide, brother.
Great call always from Jarek. All right, let's go right back to the phone lines. Like and subscribe as you hang out with us on a Sunday Night Live on BamaInsider. Hit the thumbs up, hit the bell, and subscribe. All right, who's this and where are you calling from?
Roll Tide, calling. This is Jarvis calling from Texas.
Hey, what's up, Jarvis?
Still enjoying this win. I mean, it feels good to get that sour taste of losing out of our mouth. And I will say, in my opinion, this is the most impressive win of the season, hands down.
Yeah, well, Saban, honestly, he seemed to think that too. I mean, he was so jolly after the game last night. Even his jolly, there's still a little bit of, he's not that happy, but he seemed awful happy about that game.
Oh yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is Mississippi State was actually coming off of a bye week, so they had 2 weeks to prepare for us. And during their bye week, they saw us lose to Texas A&M at the same venue that they beat Texas A&M. So I'm sure that if there was ever a time that they thought they were going to beat Alabama, it was last night. But we turned that around real quick for them.
Yeah. Look, the defense is going to have to play like that every single game for Alabama to succeed the way that we want to see them succeed. The defense is going to have to bring that energy and intensity, that pass rush. And to me, I mean, it all starts up front.
No, I mean, Will Anderson was just a caged animal. I feel like they had him locked in he didn't even practice. They just had him locked in a cage all week. And just watching Derek Thomas highlights all week, like, Will, just attack. We don't have to worry about you. Just show up on Saturday.
Yeah, man, he did too. He's such a difference maker. I watched Georgia, and they got a couple of dudes up front that just seem to be like in the backfield causing havoc, and we have Anderson, and what I'm hoping is that someone else will kind of be that next guy to make it a little bit easier on him, where he's not having to deal with double teams and all that, but. He was unstoppable yesterday.
I couldn't agree more, Mick. And like you said, I do want a second player to step up to take some of the pressure off of him. I mean, I know he's Will Anderson, but we don't want him to have to be Superman every game. Some games, if he's Clark Kent, we would like another, sidekick to be able to step up. But as long as he's healthy, I think we'll be in good shape. Just a few quick stats I had about last night that made the win even more demoralizing for Mississippi State. I looked up a stat that the past 3 years, Mississippi State has only scored 16 points against us in 3 years. So their fans, I mean, anytime we come to town, they're playing us, they pretty much know, like, it's a loss. And that 75-yard touchdown coming out of halftime, if you ever talk about ending a game, that game was over right there. After Jamison Williams crossed the end zone, those fans to the left right there.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought that was something that I'm sure Nick Saban felt good about. You know, they started fast in both halves. They had the interception in the first half, and that led to a touchdown. And then in the second half, when Jamison Williams caught that pass and scooted in for a touchdown, Alabama was in great shape. I mean, like they were really humming after that.
Oh yeah, and what a range of emotions. You know, all week they had to hear how negative things about everybody from the coaches, this player, that player, and to be able to get that taste out of their mouth on the road once again, where we can't win, quote unquote, against an SEC West opponent that we can't beat, quote unquote. It was good to just come out and win by 40. So the moral of the story is if you beat Alabama the next week, whoever we play the next week, you're ready to lose by 30 to 40. That's all I have to say tonight, Mick. I'll let somebody else get in, but great win and roll tide.
Roll tide. Always good to hear from Jarvis out in Texas. A lot of Bama fans out in Texas. Let's go right back to the phone lines and bring on Parker from Pensacola. What's up, Parker?
What's up, Mick? How are you? Roll tide.
Hey, roll tide, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great now that we got a win this week.
It was a good one. I mean, it was finally stepping up and playing a great game on the road.
And then, going back to what y'all were just talking about, the big Tennessee game that I remember is the Rocky block. I mean, I still love Eli Gold's call on that play. I mean, that's still one of my favorite calls on a Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Yeah, well, good. I was in the stands for the game.
Fans are cheering with that feeling in their stomachs. It's hard to explain. Morgan Cox will snap it. Graham Cannon will hold. Daniel Lincoln from 45 yards out to win it for the Volunteers. The snap, the spot, the kick is blocked. That's but real quick, I'm scared about Georgia.
Hey, Georgia's a good team, and they've got a lot of things going their way this year.
So we have to beat Georgia. I mean, Saban doesn't like us to think ahead, but we have to beat. If we win out, we have to beat Georgia to get in, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if we win out, yeah, we're going to have to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game.
What are we? And you know what I would love to see, Mick?
What's that?
I would love to see Alabama win out and us go in as like a 3-point underdog, since we're going to play at their house, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and we go in and win by touchdown.
Well, I mean, look, if we went in there and won, it would be great.
But I mean, wouldn't it be cool to just put a little bit of? I don't know. It's when is the last game that Bama was not favored to win?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time.
I mean, because every week we're always favored to win, but I was just kind of wondering if you knew
Google
what.
While you're talking, maybe I'll be able to find out. I don't know.
When's the last time Bama was? And I mean, that Louisiana Monroe game, that's the one game that I'm going to never forget. I mean, what's the biggest thing you remember about that game? Because you said you were there as well. What is that? I mean, I bet Saban will never forget that one.
To me, in the 2009 game.
No, I'm talking about the 2007, the one that we were playing Louisiana Monroe and lost.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember going to that Tennessee game. And I got somebody gave me tickets. It was an 11:00 game, and someone I had upper deck tickets, and someone just walking to the game was like, "Hey, you want 2 tickets to lower level?" They turned out to be on the 45-yard line, about midway up, right by the bathroom and the concession stand. I don't know whose tickets they were.
Are you talking about ULM?
No, I'm talking about the Tennessee game. The ULM game I watched from a box. I watched that in someone's box.
CBS 2:30 kick.
No, it was 11 a.m. I remember going into the stadium.
Okay, because I thought Gary and Vern and what's his name had it, but I could be wrong.
But I thought it was the way I remember it was like a Jefferson Pilot game, and this was before the SEC network and all those games.
I mean, we won 12-10.
Oh, 2009. Yeah. Look, I'm talking about 2007. Yeah, 2009 was a 2:30 game. Yeah, it was.
Because I remember Vern and Gary had it, but I mean that was a crazy game. Like I bet Terrence Cody will never forget that.
No, I mean, look, every time he's in town, I mean, that's what people talk about.
I mean, it was a really cool opportunity a couple of weeks ago to meet Rashad Johnson. He's such a nice guy.
Looks like I'm finding like 2012, Alabama was an underdog to LSU.
2012.
Yeah, but I don't know how much of this is correct. So, but yeah, I mean, that would have been maybe. I know they were an underdog in the championship game that year, right? So I guess that would be I could be wrong. I just Googled it and I'm looking on here.
Was that the rematch you're talking about for the national championship?
Yeah. Everybody thought Alabama was going to get smoked in that game.
Man, what did we do wrong against A&M? Did they just come to play, or like what happened in that game? Because I was at the Brooks and Dunn concert checking the game, and then I walk out of the Brooks and Dunn concert, and everybody's like, "Alabama just lost. Alabama just lost."
Oh yeah, well that's what happened is you went to Brooks and Dunn. Look, they just weren't prepared. It's one of those games where, you know what, the other team was ready and, and kind of did a lot of things in the first half that Alabama wasn't prepared for, and it cost them.
Do you think there's not a way that Alabama and Georgia would have to play twice, do you?
Well, look, if Alabama
beats –
yeah, if Alabama beats them and Georgia's undefeated, number one, the way that things are kind of lining up right now, I still think they get in. I mean, when Cincinnati's the number 2 team in the country, there's a good possibility that if Georgia were to lose, which if you beat them, it's going to be a monumental task with that defense that you would have to beat them twice if you were Alabama. So you got to beat them once just to get there. So
I mean, we have to beat Georgia. So it's basically, is it a lock right now where it's basically going to be Alabama, Georgia if Alabama doesn't screw up and lose another game?
Yeah, Georgia's pretty much in.
Georgia's in. So it's going to be Bama, Georgia. So we have. What does Nick Saban have to do to be? I mean, I know that's like months down the road, but I mean, it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's fun.
Do you think Bama will go in as the underdog because it's at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta?
I'm sure they would be. Yeah, I would think so.
That would be fun. Wouldn't it be fun to be like a 4-point underdog and go in and win? That'd
be great. I think it would be very motivating for Alabama and Nick Saban. Well, Parker, anything else, man? I'm going to get to some other calls, but great to hear from you tonight. Anything else before we let you go?
Not really. I just wanted to call in and say roll Tide. Let's go beat Rocky Top.
Yep, roll Tide, my friend. Great to hear from you.
Roll Tide, brother.
Roll Tide. All right, let's go back to the phones. Like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up as we talk to you on a Sunday night. Alabama, 49-9 winner. Tennessee lost a heartbreaker to Ole Miss and a controversial game, and now the two teams will meet in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, looking for an unprecedented 15th win against Tennessee. So we can talk about that, talk about Mississippi State. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Good evening, Mick. This is Kevin, Dallas, Georgia. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Nothing much. It's just a matter of just piggybacking as far as our previous conversation. Next 5 games at home. The one thing I'm interested to see, Mick, would be a matter of how many packages. And I'm thinking as far as over these next 5 games, trying to see, putting a little fly in the ointment, a little bug in the ear as far as these 5 opponents, as far as Jalen Milroe, as far as getting maybe a half a dozen plays over this over the next 5 games, as well as how many special teams, especially as far as in the punt returning game, are we giving up as far as not taking full advantage as far as JoJo Earl as far as in the punting game?
Yeah, good question.
And then also, if I was the king of Tuscaloosa, my kingdom for a defensive lineman to give a little bit of push, because it kind of reminds me of last year, Mick, in reference to Baltimore. You had Baltimore as far as giving that push in the middle. You had as far as Mr. Anderson doing what he do as far as on the end. I think it took him maybe 4 games before he was able to get that first sack, and then once he got that first sack, then it's been pretty much he was going downhill after that as far as in a positive for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, Belmore was such a big force last year too. I look at the way that the defense played yesterday, and I mean, I think if they can get that kind of pressure on the quarterback, then Alabama can beat anybody. I mean, look, it's not like they're going to go in even against Georgia and be out talented at a lot of spots. I mean, I know Georgia has that 4-headed running back assault crew right now that are as good as any foursome and running backs I can remember. I mean, they're great, but if you can beat them at the line of scrimmage, like a lot of good things can happen.
But the key to Georgia, Mick, is one person. As far as on the defensive side. Now, I know they have Nakobe Dean as well as another gentleman as far as a linebacker, but the key is that monster in the middle, number 99. And it's going to, as far as when we play them in the Mercedes-Benz, or as I call it, Tuscaloosa East, when we play as far as when we have that home game, that's unofficially a home game, that is going to be the monster in the middle that we're going to have to double team him for the entire game. And once we're able to do that, then, hey, we can do what the University of Alabama is capable of doing. And if Brother Bone was correct, which I know he was correct when he made the statement that the 22 recruiting class was the best of all time. And what we're going to have to see as far as over these next 5 games plus 2 is going to be plus 3, will be a matter of simply, hey, those guys are going to have the opportunity to play, because that's why why the University of Alabama is 3 and 4 deep, because of times like these. Hey, you have to go to your depth, and that's the reason why no team, I take that back, only maybe 2 or 3 programs are as deep as the University of Alabama, which Georgia is one of them. But the thing is, the one deciding factor that is worth, I would say anywhere between 3 to 7 points is the GOAT, and that's Nick Saban.
Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, Nick Saban's worth a lot of points just in confidence alone. I remember watching Pat Summitt coach women's basketball, and she could give like a stare at the officials and things would just seem to change immediately, and I guess you earn that stare, you earn that presence, and Nick Saban has it. When you're the best that's ever done it, people know that. And they respect that, and there's nothing in a game that Nick Saban's going to encounter that he hasn't seen before. And when you've won all these championships, which he'd obviously like to win a couple more, you got to be able to go into these games and these environments and figure it out. the best part about this program is I think Georgia's the best team in the country, the rightfully number one. And LSU was same way in 2019. I think if Tua would have stayed healthy, Alabama might have ran into him again in the playoff. I think Alabama would have ended their streak. I think Alabama would have beat them. I don't think they would have beaten Alabama twice. But Tua got hurt, and we know the rest is history, right? Nick Saban is just so good when he's got the team paying attention to what he wants them to pay attention to. And sometimes having a loss gets him to that point.
Indeed. Two quick bullets, Mick, and one is in regards to, as usual, Alabama can win it if only three things: health, and one other thing, and that's health. They can be healthy for the remainder of this year. All things will be well. And the other thing is this: also wanted to offer my condolences as far as to our brothers in Louisiana, in regards to, as the old song back in the day used to say, Mick, let's just kiss and say goodbye as far as Coach O. And my question in regards to as far as LSU allowing him to coach for the remainder of the year, but not giving him the opportunity to coach next year with a $17 million buyout, but that's another story for another time, is would the University of Alabama be interested in hiring any of those guys? Because what I understand, Mick, they're going to clear house.
Yeah.
And man, I know as far as like Corey Raymond and Joseph as well as Falk, those are, ace recruiters. And I was just wondering as far as would any of those one or three of those guys be on University of Alabama's radar?
No, I bet. I mean, look, Nick Saban's not dumb. I mean, and don't be surprised if you don't see some of these, Sage Ryan type guys transfer out too. I'm curious to see who LSU gets as their next head coach. I was never very fond of Ed Orgeron. I never took him that seriously, and he proved me wrong. The guy won a national championship. I just can't even to this day believe it, but it happened. And he had one of the greatest teams ever. I mean, everything came together, and here we are, with stories coming out from Sports Illustrated that he's done. He's getting fired, but he's going to coach the rest of the season, which is just odd in itself. I mean, that formula never works because they start rolling off wins. All of a sudden, that the stomach to fire that coach starts to get very weak. I mean, we saw it with Les Miles. I mean, if they beat Alabama, do you really think that they're going to fire Ed Orgeron? You know what I mean? Like, and then you get caught in that. Well, now we're stuck another year. The best thing to do is if you're going to fire somebody that's a coach, just get them out of there and kind of move on from it, or wait until the end of the season. So I was surprised that I saw that. But look, Alabama will be there to poach. If just like every other SEC program and around the country, they're going to be looking to see who wants to get out, where they're going to go. I mean, this whole new transfer portal thing's there. Obviously, Coach Saban loves guys that can go out and recruit. He loves Louisiana. He always does well there. He's even creeped over into Texas. He's getting a lot of players out of there now. And so that staff, if there's good guys on there, the way that Alabama loses coaches every year, I guarantee you that he'll be down there looking to see what he can do to find the best of the best.
Indeed. As always, thanks for indulging me, Mick. Take care of yourself, and once we're gonna get this W, as the old song say, and the beat goes on. Once we do, we have to do as far as Thursday. As far as against Tennessee. And then onward and upward. As always, a pleasure to speak with you. Take care and have a good evening. Roll Tide, roll.
Roll Tide. Thanks a lot, man. Great call from Kevin. All right, let's go right back to the phone lines again and talk some more Alabama football on a Sunday night. Who's this and where are you calling from?
That's Robert from Mobile.
What's up, Robert? I try to make notes on here to know if you guys are calling. I don't know why it doesn't always tell me, but great to hear you, man. And was it you that said the bubble wrap comment?
No, it wasn't me.
There must have been Kevin then.
Bubble wrap, what? Yeah, the guys in bubble wrap. I did hear it yesterday, though. I was hoping Orgeron would stick around until Tuscaloosa game and we embarrass him and then he gets fired. I was kind of disappointed it happened sooner than that.
Well, the pressure's off now. I mean, the pressure's off, you know?
Yeah, but the players are still there and the schemes are still there, and they'll still get blown out with 49-9. That's our biggest blowout for the season so far. So, LSU will be flirting with that record for this season. It's the biggest blowout for Alabama. So we still owe Jerron. Even though he's not there, we according to him, we had to claim our house back because he said he took our house.
Yeah.
A couple of years when the last time they beat us, he took our house. So we haven't had a chance to claim it back from LSU yet. We just beat them in their house, but we haven't claimed our house back, so we still owe them that one.
Well, I love the fact that game comes after a week off, you know, so you're rested, and it's a home game this year, so you know everyone's going to be fired up for it. And yeah, I mean, they'll be playing that same video and the other videos throughout the complex. I mean, Alabama, LSU, I don't care what LSU's record is. I mean, Alabama's going to go at them as hard as they possibly can. I mean, last year was a massacre. And I don't know if Alabama will be able to do that again this year. But my gut feeling is yes, and that they won't turn it off until they have to turn it off. But the fact that Ed's fired, I mean, you know, who knows? Maybe they won't. But then again, like I said, you know, now that the pressure's off and it, you know, Ed Orgeron's fired, then, you know, what are you going to do? You know, I mean, like if you're them, you just come in and you can play like, hey, what do we have to lose right now? They
could have done it anyway with Orgeron there. But, you know, I mean, it's still the LSU team.
He's going to be there. He's just not coming back next year.
Oh, he's coach. He's still the coach?
Yeah, he's coming back. He's just not coming back next year, according to Sports Illustrated. Yeah, so he'll be there.
That's kind of stupid.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, it makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't. You know, what if he were to luck up and beat Alabama? Like with who was that? Was it Orgeron or was it Les Miles who lucked up and managed to win out the rest of the season?
It was Les Miles, and that's what I'm saying. And then they couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, and they were stuck with him.
Yeah, and then it was just kicking the can down the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when you run the risk of that happening again, although they're not going to be Alabama. In fact, like I said, they're going to get embarrassed. We still owe them for their house comments. It's going to be played every day before he comes in there, which means, hey, we haven't gotten our house back from you yet. So okay, here it comes. And so I'm glad he's going to be there. That'll make the memory even fresher from the comments he said. You know, I watched the press conferences from Saban and the team. I like what I saw out of them. Both of them looked like a huge weight was off their shoulders at the end of it. Nick Saban was smiling when the reporter asked him about some change in change the play, you know, at the goal line or whatever. And he was smiling about it. Yeah, well, you've answered your own question. We saw something different. We changed the play in the goal line.
Right. We're going to run the ball.
And the players, right. And the player was also, you know, Bryce Young and Mr. Anderson and Mechie was at the during their conference. And Bryce Young didn't realize that Mr. Anderson had four sacks, and he was just, 4 sacks, woo, wow, way to go, dude. They were just all happy to be. And they just all looked like they were enjoying being around each other, like they're more relaxed now. I think it was a great sign. I'm thinking they're ready to really lay down the hammer for the rest of the season. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think that football is so different than baseball. You know, like when you're batting and everybody else is in the dugout watching. When you're in football, when the defense is out on the field, the offense is like in a meeting on the sideline. You know, like they're looking over plays and they got video that they're looking at and they're talking about assignment misses and what they want to do. You know, like I could definitely see Bryce Young missing, you know, the fact that Will Anderson had 4 sacks just because they're so focused on other stuff. But Will Anderson, what a game. Yeah. I mean, what a game. Like I feel like everything lines up for Alabama to have a pretty smooth ride until they play down at Auburn. And we'll know by then what this team is going to be. You know, is this going to be a Citrus Bowl team, or is this going to be an SEC championship team, or what? You know, I mean, there's no room for error. There's just none. They have to win every game, and you can't really look ahead. I mean, Tennessee, they're tough. We saw them yesterday, but a team that is banged up, and Alabama should win. LSU, I mean, they fired their coach, according to Sports Illustrated. You know, that's a rivalry game. Arkansas is tough at the line of scrimmage. Alabama should beat them. I know there's a cupcake in there too, New Mexico State, which is Kyle's alma mater. And then that game down on the Plains. And then if you win that, the reward is you get to play Georgia. And right now, you know, Georgia's just, their defense is so good that it like they're not giving up any points. Which could be so interesting to see this Alabama offense against Georgia.
Yeah, that would definitely be. How to beat Auburn is will be the determining factor. You know, of what we think we think we have a team that can beat Georgia? Because I mean, like I said, you always come back down to Georgia. Still think they're going to run the table. It's just how they do it will tell us about what's going to happen with Georgia. And then right, the Iron Bowl's going to be in. I mean, if you go in there and you beat them the same way or better than Georgia did, okay, now you're ready to take that next step. The next step of going against the big dog. And, of course, Alabama will be down. Well, I think they will be most likely the underdog in the game, you know, which will be the first time that has happened since they played Georgia back in, 2015 or something, which were 2015, I believe.
Yeah.
When they lost to Ole Miss, and then the next weekend they had to go to Georgia. That'd be the last time they were a slight underdog in the game. And that should be the case this time too, and which would be good. It'd be right where Alabama wants to be.
What year was that?
With 100.
What was that?
It was 2015.
Okay, so we were trying to figure this out earlier. I couldn't remember, but they were an underdog to Georgia. Yeah,
it was 2015. Yeah, it was 2015. Jay Coker's year, he won the championship.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was 2015.
How about that?
2015. So, yeah, that's right where we want to be. And like I said, I just like the press conference and how relaxed they look, like they're ready to really take that next step and trying to become an elite team. And the pressure, the pressure of the last game is off of them, and the pressure of going undefeated is off. And now they just look like they're ready to take the next step. We were interested to see. Can't wait to see what happens next weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. Me too, man. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a fun week.
Oh yeah, it's fun week when we win. Especially when we win big.
Last week was long.
Next, right, Tennessee. Yeah, they should not. They should do. Hopefully, they'll do Tennessee the same way Georgia. Oh, Georgia hasn't played Tennessee yet. They played Tennessee. They haven't played me yet.
Florida played.
Hopefully, they'll do.
Yeah.
Oh right. So hopefully they'll do beat Tennessee like normal. I mean that's a good test, but at least it won't be on the road this time. But I'm definitely like what I saw in the press conference with Saban and with the guys. I mean it's definitely looks like they're more relaxed.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll let sit up and let somebody else talk.
Hey, great to talk to you, Robert. Roll Tide, my friend.
All right, man.
Always great to hear from Robert and Mobile. Guys, as we're rolling on with the show, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up as you hang out on Bama Insider and the YouTube channel on a Sunday night. Who's this and where you calling from?
This is Hunter from Alabama.
What's up, Hunter?
How you doing tonight?
Great.
Good. One point that you said that you were surprised that Ed Ogeron won a national championship and you never thought he would do it. He got lucky. Joe Burrow is what happened to him. He just ended up I never thought of him as a very good coach. But I think he just got extremely lucky in having Joe Burrow fall into his hands.
Oh, yeah, and Joe Brady, too, the offensive coordinator or assistant offensive coordinator that came in and basically was the master of the RPO. But, yeah, I mean, it was a lot. You know what? They are lucky. I mean, look at what's happened since, but the bottom line is that the guy did win a national championship, and you can't take it away from him. I still can't believe it.
No, you can't take it away from him, but I just don't I just never thought of him as a elite coach. I mean, even though he did win a championship, but the Mississippi State game was something that I'm glad to see defensively after the A&M performance. Here's my theory. I think that the defense for the players, especially for the young guys, is a little too complex for them. And I think that's why we struggle at times. Because I think that Pete Golden just tries to get a little too fancy with it instead of, us being, you're going to have to disguise coverages and stuff like that. I understand that. But I think the defense is a little bit too complex for some of these younger players to really be able to play efficient in that system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when Pete Golding gets a pass rush, he's tough to beat. I think that's what it comes down to me. I just don't know enough about what Pete Golding does or doesn't do to have an idea of why he's successful and he's not successful. But I don't think that I think the fan base, for the most part, which is a really football savvy fan base, is just not sold on him. He's just not a very popular coach. Even after last year going undefeated and Nick Saban making sure that he stayed and not left for Texas or wherever else he could have gone. But the football fans, Alabama football fans, they're very torn on him. And I want to say, probably it feels like 65 or 70% wouldn't mind seeing Alabama find another defensive coordinator.
Well, it's just when I watched Kirby Smart as our defensive coordinator for those many years, his defense seemed to be to where the players could adapt to it very easily. And you've seen that with even the freshmen. So I don't know if he's just made this defense too complex or what it is. I understand that it's hard to be a coordinator. And you're not always going to have the best game or the best day. So I tend to give him a little bit more grace than some other people do. I would have liked to see us go with Charlie Strong as a defensive coordinator before Pete Golding got there. And I think that that would have been a very good choice, if Saban would have chosen. But there's a reason that Saban chose him as his defensive coordinator. So we just have to trust the process, I guess. Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, look, you're not going to fire him at this point anyway, right now. So you might as well just rock with him and get the most out of what Alabama has to offer right now, which is Pete Golding and a great player in Will Anderson, and and just kind of hope that they continue to stay focused and hungry and not come complacent to the football game, because that was not the case this week. And those guys rolled, and they just got to keep on doing that.
Well, they play better when they're pissed off, frankly.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
They really get in. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And Saban is always good when it comes to motivating players after a loss. And we've had Bama fans shouldn't freak out too much. We've had these seasons where we lost the game, and they come in and win the national championship. And we've had seasons. It's hard to go undefeated these days in this type of football environment that we find ourselves in. It's hard to go undefeated. So I'm not saying that we should have lost to A&M, but I'm just saying that there's going to be years and that we're not going to win every game, and we just kind of have to not get so frustrated as a fan base about that, and say, okay, well, what can we do to build upon this so that we can go out and win championships? And I think that Saban does a very good job when circumstances like this do happen, sort of rallying the troops and going out and doing what and taking care of business when it needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. That's a great point. And the other thing too is that as fans, I mean, we got to bring our A game too to Bryant-Denny Stadium and show up on the road. And like you said, I mean, we expect to win every game, but it doesn't happen like that. There's good teams. Sometimes you have a bad week. That was the case when Alabama played Texas A&M. The good thing is, you know, here's Iowa. They're out of it. They got their butts whooped by Purdue, who's not even a good team. You know, Alabama lost on the last second field goal. You know, these guys, got trained by Purdue again this year. They're done. You know, the college football regular season is a playoff in itself. The good thing, though, is being in the SEC. If you can win the SEC and you only have one loss, most likely you're going to be in the national championship playoff. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But you're not going to win every game. And Nick Saban has won 7 championships. 5 of them have come in years where he's lost a game. So it's not over by any means. But for Alabama to win games like Tennessee and the ones that they have in front of them that you don't think are going to be tough. Look, we didn't think Texas A&M was going to be tough. So they're going to have to be on their A game the rest of the way and be focused. And then you got the Iron Bowl, which I think is going to be a colossal challenge. And then if you somehow you get to Atlanta,
Auburn's the luckiest team on the planet Earth.
What's that?
I said Auburn is the luckiest team on planet Earth when it comes to rivalry games.
No doubt.
They have won some of the games that they and if you was to do that 10 times again, play that game 10 times again, they might win just that one. They've gotten that lucky, and so every year we play Auburn. It is you can throw the records out the window. You can just take those and just put them in the trash because they don't matter when it comes to playing Auburn every year.
Yep. They're always ready for us, man. Well, Hunter, thanks for the call, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, roll Tide. And thank all you guys for calling in. And let me remind you that we got a bunch of shows coming up this week. Tomorrow we'll have all of the press conferences, including Nick Saban. He speaks at noon. We'll have that for you right here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And then tomorrow night, Monday Night Quarterback. We'll be back on. Normally it's Tony Tsoukalas and me. Sometimes we have Kyle Henderson, who was on our show earlier. Trey Yannity jumps on. Andrew Bone and Trey Yannity will be on Tuesday for Bones recruiting. And then on Wednesday, Kyle and Trey will have the score prediction. That's when you guys call in and talk scores. Friday, we'll have the Bama Insider tailgate show, and that'll be from R&R Cigar in Tuscaloosa this week. So a cigar game and a show from the Cigar Mansion. That'll be a lot of fun as well. So thanks all of you who called in and hung out with us tonight. And I appreciate all of you. We'll do it again next Sunday night, and we'll have a lot more to talk about. I mean, what's going to happen with Alabama and Tennessee. I'm curious to see what happens with Tennessee as far as getting in trouble for throwing debris on the field and delaying the game. I don't think that'll affect anything in Tuscaloosa. And honestly, I think it's a one-time deal for Tennessee. I think that a lot of it had to do with Lane Kiffin being back in town, which is something that they don't play regularly, Tennessee and Ole Miss. But and then that call, which fans thought it was a first down. It was just kind of just kind of a culmination of a bunch of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be fun. The third Saturday in October, one of the real fun rivalries. And, like I said, I'm pretty fired up talking about it. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Again, like and subscribe, hit the thumbs up. And again, make sure that you're part of the Bama Insider YouTube channel and stick around. We got a bunch of stuff planned for you tomorrow night. Roll Tide, everybody. I'm Mick.